A few weeks ago, I participated in a challenge called Iron Analyst of America, which was hosted by Ken G. The event included 40 gigabytes of job posting data sourced from Indeed.com and scraped by the event sponsor, Bright Data. During the competition, we only had an hour and a half to sort, filter, analyze, and come up with key insights for the judges. So when I returned home, I decided to spend some extra time fine-tuning my analysis to provide some interesting insights about what the job market looks like for data analysts in 2022.
Before we start with the more detailed analysis, I'd like to give a brief overview of the data I will be analyzing.
All right, bro. Tony, when you cut this up, keep this in. Hunter, my dude, I love you. You know I love you, right? And at the end of the day, it's content, right? I just want your channel to be big. I want you to be doing numbers. Bro, this doesn't do numbers. Not when you're talking like whatever the fuck this is. Bro, that ain't you. You're a live dude. This dude was popping off when he was live, right? He was having so much fun, dude. He was reading chat. He was doing all, dude, Hunter, man. I love the content. You know, content at the end of the day, we do the content, right? But for you, this is not you. Like, what if I just came on and did some like sponsored ass shit and it was super bland and then I fucking turned the stream off, turn the camera off, and turn everything off, and it's just like no TTS, no Vesta board, nothing. And it was just like, hello, today I'm going to tell you about the job market. No, that's not how it goes, dude.
First, I filtered the overall data down from 6.72 million jobs to around 278,000 jobs by keeping any job titles with the word data or analyst in them. I then noticed that most of these 278,000 jobs left were not really data analyst jobs. So after some manual inspection, I further filtered the list using keywords, data analysis, BI.
Bro, you don't actually need... All right, you know what? I appreciate you actually saying data analysis
or business intelligence, and excluded any titles with engineer, scientist, manager, or VP in them. And that left me roughly 17,000 job postings. Finally, I bucketed these jobs into junior analyst, analyst, senior analyst, and lead analyst buckets based on keywords appropriate for each bucket. The junior and senior buckets were very straightforward, but I included the keyword staff with the lead bucket since it's a similar title.
I pushed back on that, but okay.
And anything not in those three, I put in the general analyst bucket. After filtering, here's a general view of the data.
Surprise! The general analyst bucket did not capture the junior, senior, lead / staff analyst buckets.
It has job postings from May to July of 2022 and covers roughly 17,000 jobs. It has a majority of the jobs in the analyst bucket, around 12,500, followed by the senior bucket with around 4,000, followed by junior and leads with a few hundred each.
So what it says to me is that just like in academia, we have what's called open rank positions. So you could be anywhere from junior to tenured, right? You could be associate professor all the way up into like full professor or like head professor, whatever the fuck it's called. In my opinion, the fact that they're looking for majority senior analysts in the declared space, so if you're looking specifically for an analyst, this seems to be kind of true, but this seems off. The fact that junior analyst is so low and analyst is so high, right? Because this is open rank at the end of the day. Like, we should be able to distribute this between junior, senior, and lead. And there should be far less obscurity in the middle rank, right? It should follow more of a distribution. But really, this distribution should be kind of skewed, right? Like, this bar, in my opinion, should be here. This bar half should be the analyst role, and then the rest should follow. Because it's pretty rare to find someone who is the senior analyst who's supposed to lead the team. It's just like, it's pretty rare to find director roles. It's pretty rare to find VP roles. And if you are in that range, typically someone else is going to be looking for you. Those job openings aren't necessarily open. Whereas there should be a gigantic range of junior or entry-level roles, and an analyst roles, if that is also known as an entry-level type role, we should also see a gigantic range there. But the fact that we don't see much junior roles and we see this over 2 times senior roles here, I feel like this seems wrong. I'm not saying that Hunter is wrong. I'm saying that job descriptions are wrong.
This should be enough data to get a decent look at what the job market looks like for data analysts. When plotting the jobs on a map, we can see there's a good spread of jobs around the country. There's a little higher concentration on the East Coast, but really it's a healthy mix all around.
I like how jobs around the country was specific to one city in each state. Like Ohio, this is specific to Columbus, apparently. But Cincinnati, which is right here, and Cleveland, which is right here, they don't have representation as cities, right? It is just Ohio. Kentucky, and in particular, what they're circling here, which seems like a mix of Louisville and maybe Nashville a little. Because the metro here in terms of jobs is equivalent to the metro in just Columbus, it makes it seem as if Ohio has the same amount of jobs as Kentucky, which is not true at all, because you literally have 3 cities in Ohio, or in Kentucky you have 2, right? One of them being Louisville, the other being Lexington. And then Nashville, down here, I mean, there is nothing for Tennessee. And there's nothing in Memphis, which is hilarious because Memphis tends to get lumped into Arkansas. So I wonder if the thresholds here that Hunter used were, I don't know, perhaps a little too stiff towards coastal cities, seeing how Oregon has 2, California has 3. Well, that's weird. New York City alone doesn't have anything, but you have like upstate New York and Toronto, and then Boston, but you don't have anything in Connecticut. And we're also missing all of like Portsmouth in terms of New Hampshire. Could be a feature of the mapping tool, but this is also the thing about the video, right? Like, I see this as an experienced data scientist, and I say, what the fuck's going on? Because you have the entire state of Nebraska as a dearth, but Lincoln and Omaha actually do have tech centers. And you're saying North Dakota and South Dakota have more jobs in availability than literally Nebraska, in which Lincoln, Nebraska has University of Nebraska. That's what you're telling me? And the sum of North and South Dakota is greater than the entire state of Wyoming. And we're only looking at perhaps Laramie here, but you have Laramie and you have all of Jackson somewhere over here. I don't know. Seems sus, but this is one of those things where it's like, as a data science creator, you have 2 people watching these videos. One is someone who's watching to learn. The other, and especially when it's targeted here, understanding the data and analyst job market in 2022. Like, especially when it is described in your title, right? Like, you have people who are looking at this as like truth, whereas me, a Nick Wan of data science, I know when this is not true. And at the moment, it's looking kind of not true, dude. Maybe you made your own choices. Now you got to live with them.
There's a little higher on a map what the job market looks like for data analysts. There's a little higher concentration on the East Coast, but really it's a healthy mix all around. And note, because of the data source, we're using Indeed.com and the filtering keywords applied to it, There really aren't that many jobs outside of the US and Canada in this analysis. To help better understand this analysis, I will walk through each section of a job posting from Indeed.com and then go into each individual section of an analysis after.
YouTube Tony, put this in too. Hunter, this might be one of your first videos. You're a live guy. Be more live.
At the top, there's a job title and a quick summary of the job information.
Chat.
Below that are job details like salary range, job type, qualifications, and job benefits. And finally, a full job description. Note, not every job posting has every section filled out. So for the analysis of each section, I will only include jobs that include information for that section. The next few analysis focus on the qualification section, highlighted in red here.
He doesn't need to go so
understand
detailed.
Which skills are in demand at different career levels. I made a plot which is grouped by skill and colored by job bucket, ordered with junior analysts in dark gray, all the way up to lead analysts in white.
Beautiful plot.
And I highlighted the top 5 technologies or skills. We can see that SQL is the most in-demand technology for data analysis.
Beautiful plot, but he should use the continuous here, because hard to cite people can't actually read this. There should be bigger gradients to get this. This is good though. I really like this, and this is a good graph. Really good graph.
We can see that SQL is the most in-demand technology for data analysts, and regardless of seniority, it's mentioned around half of the job postings. The most in-demand skill is data analysis, and the major thing here is that the lead analyst bucket expects this skill at a higher rate than the other 3. Next is data visualization, which I also grouped in references to visualization tools like Power BI and Tableau. And interestingly, we have a kind of reverse of the prior skill where the lead analyst mentions it much less than the prior 3 groups. To round out the skills most in demand, we see Excel and Python. Python has a trend where it is expected more for senior and lead roles than it is for junior or early to mid-career roles. Next, I looked at years of experience desired for each skill at each level. There's obviously a general trend of more experience expected for higher levels, but it's also important to compare for each level the expected years of experience between.
Okay, I hate this because he switched the scale. I hate this because before, right? These were the buckets and these are the skills. Here, okay, man, I guess he did it, but it feels like he did because maybe it's not dumb. All right, let's just listen to him. He's the expert. I'm not the expert.
Senior and lead roles than it is for junior or early to mid-career roles. Next, I looked at years of experience desired for each skill at each level. There's obviously a general trend of more experience expected for higher levels, but it's also important to compare for each level the expected years of experience between skills. It's apparent that data analysis and visualization, which are technology agnostic, are comparatively higher in expected years of experience than SQL, Excel, or Python, especially for senior and lead roles. Finally, in the qualification section, I looked at what degrees or certificate employers want. Far and away, data analyst roles seem to want bachelor's degrees, but it's important to note that over 70% of junior roles didn't mention this as a requirement. Also, a chunk of the junior roles want a Google certificate like Google Ads or Google Analytics. This tells me that junior level roles might be a good place to apply even if you don't have a bachelor's degree. The next analysis focuses on the job type section. The main trend I see here is that most...
Yeah, well, the thing is, we're talking about senior analyst roles, right? And so, like, this entire conversation is slightly misleading because the range is actually pretty narrow. Like, think about if we were looking for a quarterback, but the quarterback we want throws 20 to 22 touchdowns. That's the average quarterback. Ha ha ha. But if that's the parameters we put on it, just like how an analyst is expected to have a very narrow amount of requirements, it makes sense that we see bachelor degrees as like a pretty important thing, regardless of the level. Like, it doesn't matter that this is like under 25% and this is over 40%. The fact that this is all 20 to 40 suggests that analysts in general are thought in this way. Hunter did make a good point that, like, all right, well, in junior roles, like, it's good if you have certain certificates. The reason is because junior roles are code for intern roles, right? Where junior roles are typically students. So the fact that this is lower, this is higher, and this is also low, this is also higher than this, right? The fact that these suggests you need a bachelor's degree, just because this says, oh, less than 25% say you should have a bachelor's. This might be more on here, right? Notice how high school equivalent is higher. Therefore, this is here. So the reason you don't see PhDs is because typically in the analyst world, you won't see PhDs because they typically are not analysts. They typically are beyond whatever an analyst can contribute. You could call it data science. In my opinion, I think it's stupid to divide whatever the analyst is versus from what the data scientist does, because as the world moves in terms of technology, the data scientist is always going to be pushed towards back end, whereas the analyst is always going to be pushed towards the front end. Because if we go back a slide in a YouTube, hey, we're going back a slide in a YouTube, notice what is wanted. SQL is everything, because at the end of the day, you got to know SQL to be an analyst, because you got to pull in data. Analysis, not so important. And even here's where the 50% line is, right? Which is coin flip that you need to know statistics, is what this is saying. This says, less likely than not, you don't need to know any statistics to be a lead analyst. And then when we're talking about data viz, the lead analyst isn't even the top, which is why this is all fucked, right? Because where Hunter is sourcing this from is from a place that says, let's mine requirements based off what people provide in job requirements. But people don't list enough requirements. And so in the fucked part of the interview, where you're competing against someone else at the resume level, and someone has data viz experience, but someone optimized their resume, which is gigantic, to say, I don't have resume experience, or I don't have data viz experience as a lead analyst for a lead analyst role. Do you think that because this is suggested below 10% of the lead analyst open positions, do you think that someone who doesn't put any data visualization expertise, do you think they're competitive? Do you think they're going to be as competitive as someone who puts more data visualization in their resume or portfolio? Do you think if you optimized your portfolio to have less than 10% data visualization, you would be better off if you're applying to lead analyst roles? At the end of the day, you're fucking yourself if you went based off what job qualifications suggest, right? And in this case, it's Indeed. Not just Indeed, but HR departments of these companies, right? Which might not get the job description as accurate as needed. There's no reason we should see data visualization die down for lead analysts. If you're the lead analyst, data visualization should be almost the most important thing in your data role.
The lead analyst mentions it much less than the prior three groups.
You know?
To round out the skills most in demand, we see Excel and Python. Python has a trend where it is expected more for senior and lead roles than it is for junior or early to mid-career roles. Next, I looked at years of experience desired for each skill at each level. There's obviously a general trend of more experience expected for higher levels, but it's also important to compare for each level the expected years of experience between skills.
Notice this. Lead analyst, data visualization, 5 years of experience. What did we just see? Data visualization, top technology and skills, mentioned less than 10% of the time. Make it make sense. Make data visualization for the lead analyst make sense.
A general trend of more experience expected for higher levels, but it's also important to compare for each level the expected years of experience between skills. It's apparent that data analysis and visualization, which are technology agnostic, are comparatively higher in expected years of experience than SQL, Excel, or Python, especially for senior and lead roles. Finally, in the qualification section, I looked at what degree want bachelor. This is a requirement. Also, a chunk of the junior roles want a Google certificate like Google Ads or Google Analytics. This tells me that junior level roles might be a good place to apply even if you don't have a bachelor's degree. The next analysis focuses on the job type section. The main trend I see here is that most of the job recs are for full-time jobs, but for early and mid-career roles, there seem to be more contract and part-time roles available. The final analysis I did was on the available.
This is a function of budget, though. Junior analysts at the part-time role, that makes sense because they're interns, right? Part-time interns. You're going to Stanford, you want a 20-hour a week job at Google, boom, part-time role. Contract roles, this is slightly more specific. Junior and analyst roles, let's just say at the contract level, maybe, I don't know, you have a visa issue, so it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily able to work in America, but on a contract, maybe you are.
The final analysis I did was on the salary section. Here I plotted the midpoint of a salary band given the min and max value from a job posting at the 25th, 50th, and 75th percentiles of all jobs in a level. The obvious trend is that the more seniority, the more pay, but more specifically, it would appear for junior roles, you can expect to make somewhere between $50,000 and $65,000 a year. For early to mid-career roles, you can expect to make somewhere from $60,000 to $95,000 a year. For more senior roles, you could expect to make somewhere between $80,000 and $120,000 a year. And for the most senior roles, like lead and staff, you could expect to make somewhere from $85,000 to $130,000 a year. These are obviously national numbers for the US, so if you live in a city like New York or San Francisco, I would expect you would make towards the upper range or maybe even beyond the 75th percentile. When wrapping up a project or analysis, I like to reflect on future improvements I would make if I had more time to spend on it. The main improvement to my analysis, which I would still like to make, is to utilize the full job description text field. I have a few ideas of what I could do with this, but mostly it'd be for backfilling missing information or incomplete information in sections like qualification or salary. I also could use the job description to train a model that can act as a filter instead of just using simple keyword filtering. And finally, I could get additional information from the job description, like what industry the company is in, and then look at that as a variable for my further analysis.
I didn't realize this was actually a PowerPoint presentation. You feel me? I didn't realize this was actually a PowerPoint presentation. The fact that it actually was makes me kind of realize what's going on, but like, who are you presenting to? Who's the audience, you know?
Additionally, I would be interested in tracking how this data changes over time, so that it could be quite interesting to pick up later this year or next year and compare the differences. Lastly, I would be interested in looking at additional sources of data for job postings like Monster and LinkedIn.
If you enjoyed this video on the state of the data analyst job market in 2022, please consider commenting another job down below that I can do a similar analysis for. Also, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Thank you.
Bro, Hunter, I love my man. Teach me something in a way where I'm like anyone can learn, but it's also entertaining, right? A slideshow is not it. Regardless of how interesting the voice is, how cool Hunter is. For Hunter, he's so new, he'll learn, and I guarantee you he's gonna get better. Give him a year, you'll be watching him. Give him a year, he'll have more subs than I have.